I was the sun and the moon, the stars and the supernova. I was the darkness and the light, the day and the night. I was everything and nothing, both at the same time. I was the good and I was the bad. I was the infinite equinox. Do you want to play a unique and flavorful archer character with the new 2024 D&D 5e rules? Do you want to be able to control the battlefield at a distance while also dealing a lot of damage? Well, then I have the build for you. Hey guys, it's Warners. I'm back with another build video. This is my third build video for the 2024 rules. And this is also a sequel to the video I posted last week going over the Ranger and my many problems with the new design of the 2024 Ranger. I promised in that video that I would make an archer build, and this is the video. As some of you know, the range playstyle isn't as strong as it was in the 2014 rules in comparison to the new melee options. Yes, there is new ranged weapon masteries, just like all the other weapons, but a lot of them aren't as good as weapon masteries for the melee weapons. In combination with this, also, Sharpshooter was nerfed. It no longer has -5 plus 10 to damage. Great Weapon Master also doesn't have that anymore, but it has a new mechanic where you get to add proficiency bonus in damage and there's no minus to hit. Compound that with a lot of the damage adding spells such as Spirit Shroud and Conjure Minor Elementals have a range requirement that isn't quite melee but pretty close. This sort of all adds up to the range playstyle not competing as much in damage with the melee playstyle, but also something to remember is that range characters have the benefit of being at range. They're less likely to get hurt if they're spellcasters. They're less likely to have to roll concentration checks from taking damage. There's a lot of really good benefits to being at range that could potentially outweigh the damage loss. That being said, this build, I had so many ways to build it. There are many different combinations that work really well. Honestly, I think the three best classes for an archer, if you're going full class and not multi-classing, is probably either any of the fighter subclasses, but I really like Eldritch Knight with True Strike, as well as Bard and Warlock. Both have really good capabilities of being an archer. With this build though, I've done a lot of Warlock and I wanted to not do that. And I wanted to also have at least a little bit of Ranger in there, because Ranger is a good archer class. It's the quintessential archer class. And I wanted to see what I could do with the Ranger being included. It still isn't the main class in the build, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Either way, I had a lot of fun making this build, and I'll kind of reveal as I go through it. I switch classes a lot. This is the build that I'd probably change the most of throughout making it. So yeah, I'll kind of go over that as I go through the build. But that being said, let's go ahead and start with the build. So I'm going to switch over to D&D Beyond and we're going to go over it. All right. So level 1, we're going with Ranger. And yeah, do your favorite for your core traits. It can be whatever. You get a lot with Ranger now. You get 3. And then obviously you get first level spells. For spells for Ranger, I'm going with Entangle and Zephyr Strike. At first level, you only get 2. And remember, with the 2024 Ranger, you get Favored Enemy, which you already have Hunter's Mark prepared, and you can cast it twice without expending a spell slot. And it goes up as you level up in Ranger. And then Weapon Mastery. Okay, so these are the 2 weapons we're going for. We're going for Heavy Crossbow and Longbow, and it'll all make sense later on. By the way, as far as narrative for this character, I imagine she grew up in some sort of forest, or it doesn't have to be a forest, but that's what I think of when I think of Ranger. And she has aligned herself with the natural world and attained some sort of magic that she doesn't fully understand yet. That's kind of how I describe it. And then background, we're gonna go Wayfarer. As far as ability scores, we're gonna do 2 in Wisdom and 1 in Dexterity. And then yeah, we're gonna go for, as you already could tell, Human. And I'm going to pick Magic Initiate Wizard with the Wisdom, of course. And yeah, we're gonna go for True Strike and then pick your favorite or the cantrip. I picked Gus. Remember, you can switch these out. I picked Gus just for flavor because you guys saw the title. This is kind of going for like a space theme to your magic. Pretty fun to me. This basically meaning I was imagining Gust as like a gravity push ability, you know? And then shield, this is just to add a defensive option, you know, might as well. Lucky is just great, you know, to get advantage on attacks. And as a human, you know, you might as well get shield and stuff. And then, yeah, languages, you know, pick whatever. And then ability scores. This is kind of weird. It's not that weird, but we're going 13 strength, 15 dex, 12 con, 8 intelligence, 15 wisdom, 8 charisma. This is point buy, obviously. Some of you guys probably already know why I got 13 in strength, but there's a specific reason for this. Obviously, with our background, we have 16 dex, 17 wisdom. We're going for higher wisdom than dex, and that'll all make sense later on as well. As far as equipment, I would honestly probably just go for the 150 GP and the 50 GP from your background, and I would pick up a heavy crossbow, longbow, and get yourself some arrows and crossbow bolts. And then you can get some studded leather armor, but we're not going to be using that for very long, and you'll see why pretty soon. So yeah, but for now, yeah, you could take studded leather if you want. So at level 1, we have our heavy crossbow, we have our longbow. Because we only have one attack, you know, we'll just probably use the heavy crossbow most of the time. If we're kind of, you know, needing to get a really good range, then we'll use the longbow. I thematically, though, would play this character as always having a longbow. I kind of mentioned that in my ranger video as an example, because I don't really like the thematics of a crossbow, and this build is going to have a lot of flavor with it. So basically, I'm going to theme the 2 weapon masteries. So we have the push mastery, which if you hit a creature with a heavy crossbow, you can push the creature up to 10 feet straight away from yourself if it is larger or smaller. And then the longbow, we have the slow property. If you hit a creature with a longbow and deal damage to it, you can reduce its speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. If the creature is hit more than once by the weapons that have this property, the speed reduction doesn't exceed 10 feet. So yeah, I am going to flavor this as sort of like gravity magic, because it's going for like a space theme, you know? So essentially it'll be like theming it as a longbow instead. The arrow sort of, you know, used gravity to like push the enemy back when it would normally not be able to with the normal longbow. And then the longbow, you know, it can be sort of like the arrow becomes heavy and does a gravity pull on them, and sort of like either the arrow is stuck in them and it's like pulling their body down, or it's like on the ground and it's still pulling their body down, causing them to not move as fast. And then for the spells, obviously True Strike is radiant damage. So if you use True Strike, it would be good to use True Strike because radiant damage is far less resisted. So you'll probably be using True Strike, but it's essentially the same thing. But anyway, the point is you'll be doing radiant damage, so I imagine this is sort of like a glowing blue starlight infused arrow, you know? And then for, I clicked Entangle, but I meant to do Ensnaring Strike. Honestly, Entangle is probably a little better, but Ensnaring Strike, I would flavor it, and this is how I flavored it at one of my tables, because I actually have a space theme archer character that I played in 2014 rules. Essentially, we flavor it similarly as like a gravity arrow that restrains the target, and at my table, it normally does piercing damage, but we have it do bludgeoning damage, because they're like the force of the gravity is like crushing their body. But you know, essentially it's the restraint condition. This build is going to try to utilize conditions that give you advantage that are not prone, because prone is very good in melee builds, but in range builds it sucks because it gives you disadvantage on your attacks. So if you want to utilize giving advantage on your attacks, you're going to need to find other ways to do it. Ensnaring Strike is great because it is a single target restrain ability that does some damage. But then yeah, Entangle is no damage, but it's an AoE restraint. That's kind of important to think about with what you want to go with. And Zephyr Strike is just a great spell. It gives you advantage. It makes it so you disengage. It makes you so you have higher movement speed, and it adds a D8 force damage to one attack. Great spell to have, especially since you're getting the free castings of Hunter's Mark. You might as well use your spell slots for something, you know? That's level 1. Now this is where stuff is going to get interesting. We're going to go Monk. Now you're probably thinking, Monk for an archer character? What the hell? That's confusing. Well, because I'm gonna just go all the way to level 6 before I do a damage report, I'm gonna go through through this pretty quickly. You get unarmored defense, which is nice. You know, you get some certain monk abilities that are cool. You get martial arts, you know, but again, you're like, wow, why would I want martial arts? You know, it's not helpful for archery. Well, at 3rd level monk, 4th level character, we're going to go for the Kensai monk, which, just so you know, this is a 2014 subclass, but how the official rules work for the 2024 player's handbook, because a lot of people either they don't want to use old subclasses or they think that you're not allowed to use old subclasses. You are allowed to use old subclasses with the new 2024 rules. The only way you won't be able to use them is if they replace the subclass already. For example, the Mercy Monk, Shadow Monk, all 4 of these classes are in the old rules, but they're not an option down here. But we're going for the Kensai Monk. As far as flavoring this for the character, they don't have to be a monk necessarily, but you know, they're just a very acrobatic archer, you know. Also, if not a lot of you have read up on the new monk, I'm going to point out some very cool features that will be helpful even for this build, despite us being a range build. So first of all, monk's focus, which this is what like key points were in 2014, is way better now. So you got your flurry of blows, patient defense, and step of the wind are different now though. Now you can do the disengage and dash action for free, just like rogues can. It doesn't cost any focus points, which that's the new term, by the way. It's focus points instead of key. But for patient defense, you can use a focus point to disengage and dodge as a bonus action. And then step of the wind, you can use a focus point to disengage and dash as a bonus action. And your jump distance is doubled for the turn. That's awesome. So now we can just bonus action dash. We can bonus action disengage wherever we want. For a range character that doesn't want to be in danger, this is very helpful. And we don't even have to multi-class into rogue or anything for that. So that's great. Unarmored movement, we get a speed boost of 10 feet. That's great. Uncanny metabolism. This is really cool. And this also helps with the unfortunate problem with monk where you run out of key points really quickly. When you roll initiative, you can regain all expended focus points. When you do so, roll your martial arts die and regain a number of hit points equal to your monk level plus the number rolled. So you, once per long rest, you can get all your focus points back when you roll initiative, and you get to heal yourself a bit too. That's great. And then deflect attacks is kind of insane to me. Like when I first read it, when the new rules were released, I was like, how does this not cost a resource? So every single turn when an attack roll hits you and its damage includes bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, you can take a reaction to reduce the attack's total damage against you. The reduction equals 1d10 plus your dexterity modifier and monk level. So at level 4, we can reduce damage with a reaction, 1d10 plus 6 damage reduction every single turn on bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage attacks. That's crazy. That's an average of 11 damage reduced with our reaction at level 4. And then if you want, you can use a focus point to redirect some of the attack's force. Probably wouldn't use that too often. I'm definitely not going to include that in any damage calculations, but like it's a cool option. And then we're going to go with the Kensai Monk. So you get a few really cool things with this subclass if you have never heard of it, especially with how the new monk works. It's just great. The Kensai weapons is the big feature that we chose this for. You get to choose a melee weapon and a ranged weapon. Each of these can be any simple or martial weapon that lacks the heavy and special properties, except the longbow as well is also a valid choice. You gain proficiency with these weapons if you don't already have it. We're gonna pick up the longbow because we can't do heavy crossbow, so we're gonna pick up the longbow. Then melee weapon, I decided to pick longsword, not for any like important reason. It's just that we can use our dex for a longsword, and I'm not taking longsword weapon mastery, but let's say someone gets within melee range of us, it'd be nice to be able to use a longsword with my dex mod, you know, like doesn't hurt. And then yeah, choose between calligrapher's supplies or painter's supplies. And then I'm honestly not super interested in these abilities, but I'll read them anyway. If you make an unarmed strike as part of the attack action on your turn and you are holding a Kensai weapon, you can use it to defend yourself. If it is a melee weapon, you gain a +2 bonus to AC AC until the start of your next turn while the weapon is in your hand and you aren't incapacitated. So yeah, like the off chance that we are in melee, which will happen. It will happen from time to time. You can punch them and pull out your longsword and you get a little AC boost. And then Kensai shot. You can use a bonus action on your turn to make your range attacks with a Kensai weapon more deadly. When you do so, any target you hit with a ranged attack using a Kensai weapon takes an extra 1d4 of the weapon's height. You retain this benefit until the end of the current turn. So as a bonus action, you can do 1d4 extra damage and it doesn't cost a key point. That's honestly, that's not bad. At these low levels, if you have already cast Hunter's Mark on a target, you might as well add this. If you're not using the bonus action for anything else, you might as well add that d4, you know? So yeah, but that's only part of why we took this class. Level 4 Monk, we get our first ability score improvement. We are gonna go Great Weapon Master. And I'm sure some of you are saying, why? You're a ranged build. Well, if you read Great Weapon Master now, it's a bit different now. It now says Heavy Weapon Mastery. When you hit a creature with a weapon that has the heavy property as part of the attack action on your turn, you can cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target. The extra damage equals your proficiency bonus. Notice it says with a weapon that has the heavy property. Heavy crossbow and longbow both have the heavy property. So I can use Great Weapon Master with longbow and with the heavy crossbow. And in the off chance that we're using that longsword and we get a critical hit, we can do a bonus action attack with the same weapon. That's fine. And this doesn't say it has to be a heavy weapon for the hue property, so that's cool. 4th level, we get Slow Fall. That's fine. We get to reduce our damage if we take from a fall. That's kind of thematic as well for the gravity magic. It's sort of like she uses anti-gravity abilities to like slow down her fall. Like that's pretty thematic, you know? But then level 5. Okay. This is why we went monk. Okay, guys. So remember, we have heavy crossbow, longbow. We also get extra attack. The plan is to use heavy crossbow and longbow every turn. There's new rules now with how switching weapons works. Basically, you can switch weapons every time you attack and it's not a big deal. So every single turn, we're going to use heavy crossbow and longbow. And what's great about this is I don't need to get the crossbow expert feat because I don't plan on reloading my crossbow. I'm just going to be switching to the longbow. And Stunning Strike. Let me read Stunning Strike for you guys. Stunning Strike was nerfed a little bit, but also it has a unique new effect. It says once per turn, when you hit a creature with a monk weapon or an unarmed strike, you can expend 1 focus point to attempt a Stunning Strike. The target must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target has the stun condition until the start of your next turn. On a successful save, the target speed is halved until the start of your next turn. And the next attack roll made against the target before then has advantage. Okay, guys, so let me break this down for you. Kensai weapon. You choose weapons and they become monk weapons for you. Stunning Strike requires you to use a monk weapon or an unarmed strike. What's really cool about this to me is in the 2014 rules, this was not possible with Stunning Strike. So this is a very unique interaction with the 2024 rules. As you can see here, Stunning Strike in 2014 requires a melee weapon attack. This means that I can Stunning Strike with my longbow. And what's also nice about this, because Stunning Strike was nerfed where you can only do it once per turn, I'm not losing out on anything by only shooting with my longbow once per turn, if that makes sense. And that's why we're using the heavy crossbow as well. And so let me kind of summarize how this works with weapon masteries and how great this is. So you shoot the target with the crossbow and it pushes them back 10 feet. Then you shoot them with the longbow. If it hits, it reduces their speed by 10 feet. So push back 10 feet, speed reduced by 10 feet, and then you Stunning Strike. If they fail the saving throw, they are now stunned. And stunned is slightly different than how it used to be, guys. So it says, while you have the stun condition, you experience the following effects. You have the incapacitated condition. Let's look at the incapacitated condition. Incapacitated. While you have the incapacitated condition, you experience the following effects. You can't take any action, bonus action, or reaction. Your concentration is broken. You can't speak. If you're incapacitated when you roll initiative, you have a disadvantage on the roll. Okay? Saving throws affected. You automatically fail strength and dexterity saving throws. This has very cool implications later on. And then attacks affected. Attack rolls against you have advantage. So that's great. One thing that's unique about 2024 stunned condition is it doesn't say anything about your speed. Isn't that weird? So you can't do any action, bonus action, reaction, but you technically have your full movement, which is odd. Even if they fail the saving throw on Stunning Strike, it's good that we slow them still and that we push them back 10 feet because they still have their full movement. But if they succeed on the saving throw, the target speed is halved until the start of your next turn, and you have advantage on your next attack. So even in the worst case scenario, if they succeed on the saving throw, their speed is still halved after it's already been reduced by 10 feet, and the next attack roll made against the target has advantage. That's amazing. And then I'm level 5, so I have 5 focus points, so I can do this 5 times in combat. How many combats go more than 5 rounds? Not many. And via the simultaneous effects in the rules glossary, the player gets to decide what effects happen when, and because a failed stunning strike and the slow property both happen on a hit, for example, if the creature has a 30 walking speed, you can choose to have the movement from the failed stunning strike first, making the movement speed 15 feet, and then you can choose to use the slow property to minus 10 from that to make their walking speed effectively 5 feet for that round. Alright, for this first damage report, we have our longbow attack and our heavy crossbow attack, and the reason they're +6 is we have a 3 dex, but then we also have Great Weapon Master, which adds, at this level, our proficiency bonus is +3. So it adds +3 per hit. So that would make it +6. And then even though we will be casting Hunter's Mark, I feel like Hunter's Mark isn't very reliable as far as how often we'll be able to add it to our attacks. So that being said, for this math, I am calculating using the 1d4 that we get from our monk ability, where we get to just add a d4 to one of our attacks as a bonus action. So know that these numbers could potentially be higher at times where you choose to use Hunter's Mark. So yeah, as you can see at AC 10, it's 25.2, AC 15, it's 22.1, and AC 20, it's only 16. But we are doing a lot of control. We're stunning targets. We might be restraining them if we're choosing to use Ensnaring Strike. We have a lot of mobility. We have a lot of control. So don't worry. Next damage report will be a lot higher. All right. So first of all, I'm going to go into Ranger, another level, and we're finally getting the archery fighting style. I was just trying to get to extra attack and Stunning Strike as quickly as possible because that's very important and fun for the build to me. And yeah, we're going to get archery and then pick whatever expertise you want. I would probably do like stealth or perception personally. You also get more languages. And then after that, I'll probably go in Ranger yet again. Ranger level 3. This is where we pick subclasses, okay? And I have a lot of opinions about the new subclasses, but surprisingly or not surprisingly, Gloomstalker is still the best Ranger subclass for damage in my opinion. And I actually love the thematics of the Gloomstalker, especially with this build. So first of all, at the start of your first turn each combat, your speed increases by 10 feet until the end of that turn. We already have 40 feet of movement, so that means we have 50 feet of movement at the start of combat. Dreadful Strike, when you attack a creature and hit it with a weapon, you can deal an extra 2d6 psychic damage. You can do this benefit only once per turn, and you can use it a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. Wisdom modifier now instead of proficiency bonus. So it's good that we have a higher wisdom, and you gain all uses when you finish a long rest, and when you roll initiative, you add your wisdom modifier to the roll. This is great. Umbral Sight, though, I think is really fitting for the flavor I have for this character. You gain dark vision to a range of 60 feet. That's great for a human character that normally doesn't get dark vision. And then if you already have dark vision, you gain this feature, you increase by 60 feet. You are also adept at evading creatures that rely on dark vision. When entirely in darkness, you have the invisible condition to any creature that relies on dark vision to see you in that darkness. I love this, especially for a space themed character. How I imagine this being is, what does space have? Space is mostly just a dark, empty void. And so of course you're able to be invisible in darkness. you become the void. And then you have all these spells that do movement control. So it's like gravity magic. And so you already got all these things going on that really flavor it like space. But then we do another class, guys, okay? We're gonna go for Druid. And a lot of you probably saw this coming, but yeah. First of all, Druid level 1, we're gonna go Magician. The reason why is Warden gives you proficiency in martial weapons and training with medium armor. We already have that, but we're not even using medium armor. We're just going unarmed. This is kind of cool because you get 1 extra cantrip from the Druid spell list. In addition, your mystical connection to nature gives you a bonus to your intelligence, arcana, or nature checks. So basically you get to add your wisdom mod to arcana and nature checks, and I find that to be really cool. And then you get an extra cantrip. We'll go with Starry Wisp. Why not? That's very space themed. And then yeah, pick your favorite for cantrips. Thorn Whip, good. Shillelagh is honestly pretty good. If you go with Shillelagh, you probably don't need the longsword. You could probably go with like a quarterstaff or whatever and just ignore the Kensai weapon thing. I don't have any like specific spells for this build that I would go with but probably, jump, Longstrider. Jump is way better now, by the way. Healing Word. You can go for Entangle now if you want. If you don't want jump and you just want Longstrider or something, you can go with, there's so many different things. Fairy Fire I think is also very flavorful because it's like star magic, and then you'll get more spells as you get higher level. But then level 2, you get Wild Shape, which is a very useful skill, but we're going for level 3. What possibly could we be going for? Obviously the Circle of Stars, guys. So this is where the build is thematically so flavorful and perfect, and also very good mechanically. So first of all, we got 2nd level spells. There's a lot of really good 2nd level Druid spells. I'm probably definitely gonna go Spike Growth. Spike Growth is amazing. You can go Moonbeam if you want. Aid is always prepared for this subclass. Nice. Large Reduce is good. But yeah, I definitely am gonna go for Spike Growth. And this is great because we have obviously the Push Mastery. It isn't gonna be doing that much damage, to be fair. But what's nice is because we're stunning them and reducing their movement speed, it'll be hard for them to escape it, And then Moonbeam would also be great if you stun a target in a Moonbeam. And then we're at level 11, so we're going to do a damage report. All right, so first of all, level 11, the 2d6 at the top, that is our Dreadful Strike that we get from Gloomstalker. We get to use that once per turn. Then we get the 1d8 from Longbow and the 1d10 from Heavy Crossbow. We are assuming we have advantage because we have the Lucky Feat, and then we also have Stunning Strike. Even if the Stunning Strike fails, we still get advantage on the next attack. And then again, we have the 1d8 plus 3 that is from our Starry Form. I realized while editing this that I didn't even explain Starry Form at all. So basically, you can replace your Wild Shape charges, and instead of Wild Shaping, you go into your Starry Form as a bonus action, and you can do one of 3 things. The main thing we're going to be focusing on is doing the Archer form, which as I use the bonus action, I can automatically do a ranged spell attack with a 60-foot range that deals 1d8 plus my wisdom modifier in radiant damage. And then there's the Chalice form, which makes it so when I heal someone, I can heal a second person for 1d8 plus my wisdom modifier. And then Dragon at this level just gives me any roll lower than 9 on concentration checks is instead of 10, and my intelligence and wisdom skill checks are as well treated as a 10 if they are below 9, which is our bonus action attack, radiant damage. So for AC 10, that is 39.6. For AC 15, that is 36.3, and for AC 20, that is 29.9 DPR. That is without casting any spells. Theoretically, let's say on round 1, we cast Moonbeam, just the Moonbeam by itself. If it hits 2 targets, with the assumption that their con save bonus is 6, I got that number by looking at the average con save bonus for a challenge rating 11 creature, which is 6. It would do 21.9 damage on average if you count both creatures. And then of course, in that first round of combat, you wouldn't be able to do any attacks except for the bonus action 1d8 plus 3. So it would be a little bit higher than 21.9 on average for that first round. And then the final number you see, that is a round where Moonbeam is already cast. It hits 2 targets again, and then you get 61.5 for AC 10, 58.2 for AC 15, and you get 51.8 for AC 20. That half damage on a save is helping helping us a lot here. We're gonna go 2 more levels in Ranger. And you're probably thinking like, you have Druid spells because you're going Druid, and you have extra attack because you're going Monk, so why the hell are you going for Ranger? Well, it's actually for a very specific spell pickup. We're going for Magic Weapon. The reason we're going for Magic Weapon is I don't plan on maxing out my Dex. I plan on going full into Wisdom. Dex is one of the best stats in the game. But what does Dex do for us? Dex raises our attack and damage for dexterity weapons, which dexterity weapons is what we're using. It makes our AC higher, especially with this build. And then it also makes our initiative bonus higher. Because of Gloomstalker, Wisdom is raising our initiative. And because of Monk, Wisdom is raising our AC. And so Wisdom is doing the same thing Dex is doing anyway, except for when it comes to our weapon attack and damage. So we're gonna go Magic Weapon. What this does essentially, it makes your weapon a +1 weapon. And then at level 3, it makes it a +2 weapon. And at level 6, this is spell level, by the way, it makes it a +3 weapon. Also, it's a bonus action to cast, it lasts an hour, and it's non-concentration now. So we can have up to a +3 weapon, non-concentration as a bonus action. I will be adding this to my damage calculations, and I think it's very important. We also get some unique spells like Rope Trick and Silence that Druids don't normally get. And technically Cordon of Arrows, but that spell sucks, in my opinion. Pick your favorite for whatever other spells you want to pick up. Maybe Enhanceability, that's a good one. And then after we have Magic Weapon, we're just gonna go straight Druid now. I forgot to do my ability score improvement though. We're gonna go Wisdom, full Wisdom, boom. And then we actually get a feat right away as well. Right now our Wisdom is at 19, and you could do a few things. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into Dex. It's so funny, I just went over that whole thing with Magic Weapon. I am gonna go Dex. The point is though, I'm not going to get to 20 Dex by level 20. So I am going to go into Dex at this level. You could go into Wisdom and get a half feat if you want. I'm saving that for when I get my level 19 Epic Boon feat, because that gives you a +1 to whatever stat. I'm going to save that for Wisdom. But now we're level 5, level 15 character. This is a very important level, especially for this build. So I talked about the new Conjure Animals in my last video I made. I'm not a big fan of this spell compared to other spell options that classes get. But in this build in particular, it's actually really good. And I'm very excited to show you guys why it's good. So the new Conjure Animals basically does the same damage that Moonbeam does, except it is slashing damage and it's a dex save. If you succeed the dex save, it does no damage to you, which that sucks, you know? So one of the reasons why Moonbeam is so much better in a lot of ways is that it does half damage on a save, which normally I really like half damage on a save. But the thing that is great about this build is I plan on every turn trying to stun creatures, and a stunned creature automatically fails their dex saving throws. So if we are able to stun the creature, we have guaranteed damage with Conjure Animals. And then also, one thing that's great about this new Conjure Animals is this part. It says, when you move on your turn, you can also move the pack up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. So the spell has a 60-foot range for casting it. I don't have to be in range to move them. I just need to be able to see them, to see the Conjure Animals. And I can move it 30 feet per turn as long as I move. And I could even move like 5 feet. I could just move 5 feet one way, move 5 feet back, and then I can move the Conjure Animals 30 feet. The reason why we want to go for a spell where I don't have to use a bonus action or an action to move things is because we're going to be bonus actioning doing this Starry-Form Archer every turn. And honestly, there's a lot of more spell pickups, but I'm trying to basically do a Conjure Animals build with this character. So we go 2 more levels into Druid. There's some really cool things we pick up here. So we get Cosmic Omen. This is one of my favorite abilities that the Circle of Stars Druid gets. So it says whenever you finish a long rest, you can consult the star map for omens and roll a die. Until you finish your next long rest, you gain access to a special reaction based on whether you rolled an even or an odd number on the die. So if you roll even, when a creature you see within 30 feet of you is about to make a d20 test, you can take a reaction to roll 1d6 and add the number rolled. Or, whoa, When a creature you can see within 30 feet of you is about to make a d20 test, you can take a reaction to roll a d6 and subtract the number from the number rolled from the total. Okay, so in my imagination, once you get this ability, you are making sure you are 30 feet away from the enemy. That is kind of close for a ranged character, but remember, you're a monk with deflect attacks and the shield spell. You'll probably be pretty fine if you have melee interaction happening. You can disengage as a bonus action. You have so many things you can do to get out of melee combat. So being 30 feet in front of a target isn't too bad, especially with your 40 feet of movement. With being able to bonus action dash, like, you're fine. You're doing fine. Now, there's a lot of chance here. Some days you'll be able to help your allies and you'll be able to take a reaction to roll a d6 to add to a number rolled to like a saving throw or a attack roll or whatever. But what we're wanting woe. We really want to get woe because this means that, let's say you want to stunning strike someone, well, you can minus a d6 to their roll, and a d6 is that's a big die. Again, you could roll a 1, but even a 1 on a saving throw is a big deal. And then, let's say you're not worried about the stunning strike. Let's say a stunning strike landed. Well, then you can use this on the conjure animals damage. And then at level 7, you get Elemental Fury. And we go with Primal Strike. You now get to add an extra 1d8 of cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. And I noticed this. A lot of people, I don't think, read this closely. I've seen a lot of content creators talk about Elemental Fury, and they only say it in the context of Wild Shape and Moon Druid. It doesn't say melee attack roll. It says once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with an attack roll using a weapon or a beast form attack in Wild Shape, you can cause the target to take an extra 1d8 of these elemental damage types. It can be literally any weapon attack, including ranged weapons. I would probably be doing fire most of the time for the thematics of it all. You're using radiant star energy, you know? That's great. Imagine getting a damage boost to your attack. Ranger doesn't know what that's like. And then this is level 17, so we're gonna do a damage report. All right, before I explain any of this, I forgot to add the 1d8 extra damage from Elemental Fury on this damage report and on the level 20 damage report. So just know that there's going to be an average of 4 to 5 extra DPR on all 3 of the ACs. So yeah, my bad. All right, so here at level 17, we are assuming that we're casting Magic Weapon. And so at level 3 casting it, it is essentially making it so that we have a +2 longbow. So that makes our to hit at this level +14. And then our proficiency bonus is +6 at this level. So we have the 2d6 from Dreadful Strikes. And then our longbow and heavy crossbow attack are +13 now, with Great Weapon Master combined with our bonuses from Magic Weapon and our normal dex bonus at +4 dex. And then we still have that 1d8 +4 bonus action attack. So just like the last damage report, the numbers at the beginning: 52.9 DPR for AC 10, 51.6 DPR for AC 15, and 47.3 DPR for AC 20. That's without casting any spell, just the regular damage we're going to be doing most rounds. And then the second number, how I got this number, 38.5. This is casting Conjure Animals, assuming we hit 2 targets. Honestly, I think I could hit a lot more than 2 targets because I can move this 30 feet per round, but just for consistency's sake, we're just going to say 2 targets. It'll probably be a lot higher depending on who you're facing. And then I went ahead and assumed that half the time, one of those 2 targets would automatically fail their save because of Stunning Strike. So that makes it 38.5 DPR. And so you can see the numbers there. If you add it all together, it's around 90 damage regardless of the AC per round. And that's, of course, the second round of combat if you cast Conjure Animals your first round of combat. Looking pretty good. And like I said, it's actually going to be a lot higher damage than this most of the time, in my opinion. Okay, I just did the damage report. One thing I didn't mention because I didn't want to. You do get access to Conjure Minor Elementals. The reason why I'm not including Conjure Minor Elementals in this damage breakdown is, first of all, you have to be 15 feet away from the enemy. If you totally want to max out damage, using Conjure Minor Elementals is definitely the way to go. But this spell is OP. If you have any build that gets 4th level spells that's either a druid or a wizard, Conjure Modern Elementals is going to be the highest damaging ability for you. And that's boring to me. So yeah, I'm not I'm not including that in the build, but it is an option if you want to be a 15-foot range attacker. Boom. And then Wall of Fire is pretty good too. Remember, everything that's stunned, they automatically fail strength and dex saves. So Wall of Fire's dex, Entangle is dex. Again, you can only do it on, like, Ensnaring Strike and Entangle are dex. You can only do it on one target, but still. Anyway, level 8 druid, level 18 character. This is unfortunate because you're not high enough level to get the epic boon feat. What I would probably do, I would ask my DM if I can just wait till the next level and then take the feat. If I don't get to take the epic boon feat here, I would probably go with the telekinetic feat. Again, this is just for flavor, wisdom, but I'm pretty sure your DM would be fine with you just waiting. So I'm gonna just wait till I'm level 19. So level 19, and then I can add the epic boon feat. And honestly, any of them are fine. They're all pretty good. I think the True Sight one is pretty interesting, especially since the range you want to be at where this build is 60 feet anyway. But again, for damage, you probably want to go combat prowess. It's just so good, especially because you can raise any ability score. When you miss with an attack roll, you can hit instead. That's just great. It's so good. It's really hard to miss out on this. So I'll probably do that. And then we're level 9 druid, so we actually get 5th level spells. What I love about this, if you compare it to the ranger, at around this same level as a ranger character, you're also getting 5th level spells. It's a little lower than this, but you don't get 6th level spells is my point. There's a few spells that I was tempted to start using for this build for damage. I honestly don't do all the numbers till later, so you guys will see the level 20 damage report soon. I might have added this instead of Conjure Animals, but I don't think I did. But there is Maelstrom. This spell is very thematic because it's themed as like weather, but you could totally reflavor this to be like gravity magic. Because you're literally like, imagine this, but it's gravity magic and like black holes and shit. A swirling mass of 5-foot deep water appears in a 30-foot radius centered on a point you can see within range. So something is in the center of a radius. The point must be on the ground or in a body of water. Until the spell ends, the area is difficult terrain. The gravity is stronger, and any creature that starts its turn there must succeed on a strength saving throw or take 66 bludgeoning damage and is pulled 10 feet towards the center. So literally there's a thing in the middle of an area. They have to make a strength save. It's harder to walk in it, and it does bludgeoning damage, and they're pulled to the center. This is black hole or whatever. That's how you can flavor that spell. That's super fun. Also, I forgot to mention at 4th level, Grasping Vine is a super good spell now. Highly recommend this one. And then also what I forgot to mention, 8th level druid, you have flying wild shapes. So as a ranged character, being able to turn into a giant owl and fly somewhere to like be up on a perch, so nice to have. Like, oh my god. And druids have so many spells. I could talk about druid spells all day. You know that druid spells are good. I don't have to tell you that. There's so many options that are great. Scrying, like, oh my god, so many good things. So you can pick whatever. And then level 20, level 10 druid, we get Twinkling Constellations as our pseudo capstone for this character. The constellations of your starry form improve. I love this. And in case you never looked at the Circle of Stars druid, just know that if you go full druid, you can get this to level 10. The constellations of your starry form improve. The 1d8 of the archer and the chalice becomes 2d8. And while the dragon is active, you have a fly speed of 20 feet and can hover. Moreover, at the start of each of your turns, while in your starry form, you can change which constellation glimmers on your body. That's so cool. So you are able to, once you have starry form active, at the beginning of the turn, you can just switch to a different form. So what that means is you can be in archer form and you're doing 2d8 plus 5 damage as a bonus action. Radiant damage. Let's say one of your party members goes down. Okay, I switched to chalice form, and then you heal an ally. You bring an ally up with Healing Word, which is buffed now, by the way. Healing Word is now base 2d4 plus your wisdom mod, and then you get to add 2d4 for every upcast. And then you also get to heal another creature 30 feet away for 2d8 plus your wisdom modifier. That's amazing. And then you can just switch right back to archer the next turn. And then if you really want to fly around, you only have a flying speed of 20 feet, but you also are hovering. So if someone knocks you prone, you're still up in the air. That's great if you want to go dragon. And this is so thematic for the Archer of the Stars, as I put it, build. I imagine this character as sort of like, just like how druids become in tune with nature, and rangers for that matter, become in tune with nature and start to exhibit the abilities of the nature around them. I view this as a druid that has sort of taken on the nature of space, which is a part of nature, just like anything else. So you're reflavoring your abilities, you're doing a lot of damage, you have a lot of control options. You're a druid, you have, what's your highest spell slot because of multiclassing? You have 7th level spell slot. When you're casting Conjure Animals, it's doing 70-10 slashing damage. You have a 19 AC, your initiative is +9, you have the shield spell. If you get hit, you can deflect attacks. If you use your 6th level spell slot to make one of your weapons a magic weapon, I would probably do the longbow because that's important for you to hit to get the stunning strike. You could have a +15 to hit and then +7 onto your damage for that hit. Isn't that insane? +15 to hit. Because one of the great things about sharpshooter not being a problem anymore for you is that you don't have to worry about missing like very much at all because you're not doing the -5 +10. This character would be so helpful on the battlefield, so thematic. I even love the fact that because I'm a monk, I could just like start punching people if I want to, and it would feel so funny because this person sees this archer character like very, you know, specifically doing archery, and then they can just beat the shit out of you. And then what's funny is you can also grapple and shove with your deck. So I could just like grapple someone and just like, it's just so funny to me that I'm still a monk despite all of this, you know? You also get free uses of Guiding Bolt. There's so many things I didn't mention that you get with this build. You just have so many options. It's kind of insane, to be honest. Damage report for level 20. All right, so level 20. Main things we've added is because of magic weapon, we have another +1. We have level 6 spell slots now. So that makes our attack bonus a +15 because we essentially have a +3 longbow plus the archery fighting style. And then we of course have the 2d6 of Dreadful Strike. And then we have the upgrade to Starry Form that we now have a 2d8 instead of a 1d8. And because we bumped our wisdom up to 20, we have a +5 to that bonus action attack. So for an AC 10, it's 60.3, AC 15, it is 58.9, and AC 20, it's 54 DPR for our regular attack. And then when we have a second round, and that's if we don't cast any spells, and then let's say we do cast Conjure Animals on round 1, our round 2 damage, if we hit 2 targets and we assume one automatically fails half the time because of Stunning Strike, that adds 49.5 damage to every single one of those. And again, I think the damage will be higher depending on the amount of enemies you're facing. And just so you know, for a CR 20 creature, the chance to hit them with Conjure Animals at this level with our spell save DC is 60% chance. So it's pretty decent even without stunning one of the enemies. Definitely not our highest DPR character, but for being an archer with all these amazing ways to buff the party and with the potential for the damage to be a lot higher depending on who you're fighting. I also unfortunately wasn't able to calculate the boon of combat prowess in this because I don't really know how I would do that with the calculator I'm using. And then also you have your Cosmic Omen feature where you can make a creature subtract a d6 to their saving throw, but again, you won't have that every day. You only have it 50% of the time, so I also didn't include that in the DPR. So just know there's multiple ways for the DPR to be higher. Anyway, I hope you liked the build. I love this build. I actually have a character. I play in 2 campaigns, and I don't have any monk on that character because it's a 2014 character. It's just ranger and druid. But adding this monk with the new monk rules, I feel like really made this build super fun. It gave this character so many different options that you wouldn't expect an archer to have. And I love the idea of Stunning Strike with a bow. That's just so fun to me. I hope you guys enjoyed this build just as much as I have. Range characters definitely aren't as much of damage dealers as melee characters, but I think if you build it right, you can have a lot of fun with it. Thank you guys so much for the support, by the way. I've been on and off doing content creation
generation for a while now, and I've always wanted to do D&D content, and I've seen so much support from you guys. My next goal is to get 3,000 subscribers, so if you enjoyed the content, consider maybe subscribing, put a like, comment down below. If there's anything that I missed in this build that I got wrong, just let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe share it with a friend. Next week, at the time of recording, I don't exactly know what my next build is going to be, so maybe even leave some suggestions down in the comments of what my next build should be. I'm probably going to go for, I kind of want to make a barbarian build, so I probably will do something like that, but we'll see. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing, and I'll see you next week. Peace.